Morning, everyone. Josh here, Solopreneur Grind. It is the SG Daily number 84. I can't tell if I'm lagging on the video here. It kind of looks like I am. But anyways, we'll see how this turns out. Hope your week has gone well. It is Friday, November the 8th, 2019. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see that I have my hoodie on. And that is because Canada is starting to live up to its reputation. That time of the year, things are getting chillier. And man, it takes its toll. I think I've done a daily on that before, where certain conditions like weather can kind of affect mood and output and productivity and stuff like that. I'm not going to go into that today because I wanted to give a quick update for this week's video, as well as talk about the importance of office space. So I guess it is kind of related to the weather, excuse me. But really quick update, which will explain the rest of the episode, is that I started this week working at an incubator. And so for those who don't know, incubators are basically offices dedicated to helping usually tech companies kind of grow as quickly as possible. And so if you've been following my content, you know the last few years I've spent running my own legal practice. And a few months ago, I also co-founded a legal tech company related to that practice. And I talk a lot about niches and how everything should kind of be related and the benefits of that in other episodes. But one of the benefits of being very niched as a solopreneur and in my service business was there was a very low-hanging fruit for a related tech company, or for building tech and software and automations for that field, because you're so niched and you know one area very well. And luckily, I do live in Canada, and there's a ton of really great resources and programs and stuff available. So what I was able to do was apply to and be accepted to the first Canadian legal incubator in the country. And so it's an incubator for only tech companies, which is really cool. Started in their office on Monday and have really felt the difference already. So for the greater part of the last 2 years, I've been working on my practice, and even, excuse me, even while working on this tech company, a lot of time has been, it's been from home, right? So you can see behind me, like I'm in my condo right now because, excuse me, I didn't want to do this recording in the office. But I've spent the greater part of 2 years working from home, and it's tough, right? There's benefits, which are commute costs are very low. You can eat at home. You can eat whenever you want. You can do whatever you want. Your work schedule can be whatever you want. So those are the pros, some of the pros. And then there's cons, right? Which is, it can be lonely. It can be monotonous. There's like one thing I'll explain is, there's not as much kind of energy, if that makes sense. Like I'm sitting alone in an apartment. There's nobody else. There's no energy to feed off of. There's no kind of motivation. Whereas I started on Monday in this incubator, and all of a sudden I'm surrounded by all these highly motivated and passionate people trying to build their own legal tech companies. And it was super, it was like a flip switch almost, switched up from off to on. Now, I'm not saying nobody should ever work from home, because I've done it a lot. I know it's doable, that's for sure. And like I said, pros and cons, right? And grass is always greener type thing. But what I have noticed is when I'm working at a co-working spaces, or just in this last week when I've been working at this incubator, is there's some real benefits that I think outweigh the costs, which is kind of what I wanted to talk about in this episode. Now, again, like most things, this is situational. Maybe you have a super great office set up in your condo or your house or wherever, or maybe you don't like working with other people around you. You don't like their noise and stuff like that. I don't know, right? Maybe what you're working on is super confidential and you'd rather not be in an office. I don't know what the reason might be. But this is not a definitive statement of you should always not work at home. This is more I think it's better if we work outside of home, and here are the reasons why. So number one is there's something about leaving your place of residence, let's call it, that really helps kind of set you into the work mode, right? And people talk about this a lot, like being able to separate work from the rest of their life. I actually don't think that that's like as important or as strong as an argument as just the fact is that when you are able to separate them a little bit, then it's a really good mentality shift. So like I'll go to the office, do work, come home, make dinner and still do work, right? I don't have to separate like never doing work at home and always doing work outside of home. I don't think that's so important, especially if you're working long hours. You're going to work from anywhere that you have to. But being able to kind of flip the switch in your head, so you wake up and you do whatever your morning routine is, and then you pack up your stuff, you get ready, you're almost like prepping your mind for like getting excited to go to work. And then you do the walk or you do the commute or you do the drive, whatever it is. And then by the time I'm like walking through the front doors of the office, I'm like pretty ramped up and ready to go and like put the laptop down, flip it open and kind of get going. So I find that kind of, it's almost like let's call it like a mental warm up is the preparation and commute. I'm lucky. The commute's about a 17-minute walk. So I don't have to, sit on a subway or sit in a car or sit in traffic for an hour. So that's really convenient too. So number one is kind of separating the two can I think add to this motivation and prep and everything like that. Number two is I mentioned energy before, but being surrounded by like-minded and motivated and hardworking people is, I find, underratedly super helpful. And it's almost hard to explain, and you might not be able to explain it like factually or scientifically, but I firmly believe that when you're working in a location with other people who are working hard as well, who are motivated as well, who are smart, who are whatever, then it's just a better environment to be in and will contribute to your motivation, your energy, your excitement, and everything like that. Not only that, you can talk to them, rely on them, ask them questions. They can ask you questions. You can rely on each other to help one another, almost like like a mastermind type effect, or just having additional mentors or just people you can bounce ideas off of is super helpful. And I think those are kind of like the main benefits. The other thing is it's really convenient. So let's call this a third reason, is the convenience of having one location where you can go set up and do work, right? So if you're working from home, what I would do is 2 times a week is I would go find somewhere else to work, even if it was just for an afternoon. I'd go to a coffee shop, co-working space, whatever. But when you go to those places, you got to think of which one to go to. You got to, do they have an outlet so I can plug in my laptop? Are they going to have a seat available? Where should I even go? I like to minimize the thinking I have to do each day, because as solopreneurs, we have enough things to think about. And so what I really like now is I pack my bag. I know where I'm going. I know there's a desk waiting for me. I set up. The internet is fast. I don't have to worry about packing up my laptop to go to the bathroom or anything like that. It's convenient. It's reliable. I know where it is. I know what to do. I just go do it, right? And this kind of goes back to that Steve Jobs approach of, like, he wore jeans and a black turtleneck and the same pair of white shoes every day because it was one less decision he had to make, right? You don't wake up. And that's like probably a little on the extreme, but I don't think it's all too crazy to try and minimize your brain power usage outside of work, right? So like, I'm similar in the sense that I won't open up my closet and spend 5 minutes thinking about what I'm going to wear. I open up my closet, I generally pull out my jeans, pick the top t-shirt off the pile, and put on socks and go. Or, in this case, a sweater if it's cold. So the more you can minimize all of that stuff, the more you can use your brain power on more important things. Again, might be a little extreme, but if you're working 10, 12, 14-hour days, that's a lot of brain power, right? So the more we can optimize for that, the better. Anyways, that's my spiel on why I think that working from home can be done, but I don't think it's optimal. I think that's the key takeaway, is it's not optimal. Might be different for you. That's just my thoughts. Let me know what you think. If you're watching this on YouTube, in the comments below would be great to hear your comments. Make sure to subscribe, like the video. If you're listening on the podcast, thank you for listening. Hope you've subscribed. And if you want to join the email list, I send one every Friday. I basically give a little, kind of like this vlog, but in writing form. It's kind of like a journal form. I give an update on how my week's gone, some key lessons and things like that. The link is in the description, whether you're watching on YouTube or on the podcast. solopreneurgrind.com/join. Would love to have you on the email list. Hope your week has been great. Have a great weekend, and I will talk to you next Friday.